Hello, everyone. I hope all of you can hear me. Okay. So in today's session, we are going to discuss some questions on inverse trigonometric functions. Well, for the first part of this, we are actually going to start off with one of the very common topics that we have, which is domain and range of ITF related functions. Okay. So we'll start with some very basic simple examples to see how the things work out. Like, for example, question, find the domain and range of this y is equal to sine inverse of e power x. Domain and range. So for the domain part, what is the domain restriction for sine inverse? E power x must lie between -1 to 1. But we know that e power x is always positive. So this domain restriction changes from 0, e power x is less than 1, and then take the ln of the whole thing. So ln 0 would be minus infinity is less than x is less than equal to ln 1, which is 0. So the domain of sine inverse of e power x would be x belongs to minus infinity to 0. Okay. And then what about the range? So range के लिए we apply this, that the range restriction of e power x for this function would be 0 to 1. So we'll have sine inverse of a number lying between 0 to 1. So sine inverse 0 is 0 and sine inverse 1 would be pi by 2. So the range would be 0 to pi by 2. Does everyone follow this? Okay, next question. Find the domain and range of cos inverse of box x. So for the domain part, again, -1, box x should lie between -1 to 1. But if box x lies between -1 to 1, this would imply that x should lie between -1 to 2. Box x being 1 implies x would lie between 1 to 2. So box x lying between -1 to 1 will imply x lies between -1 to 2. So that would be the domain. And for the range, we apply the range restriction. So box x for x lies between -1 to 1 implies there will only be 3 values in the range of box x for this part. Considering that the domain is -1 to 2, box x will lie box x can only take 3 values, -1, 0, and 1, which implies y would be, the range of this would be cos inverse of -1, pi, cos inverse of 0, pi by 2, cos inverse 1 is 0. So that would be the range 0, pi by 2, pi. Okay, next question. Find the domain and range of sine inverse of fractional part of x. So for the domain, we'll need fractional part of x to lie between -1 to 1. But we already know the fractional part of x for lies between 0 to 1 for all values of x belonging to real numbers. So for sine inverse of fractional part, the domain would be all real numbers because the output of G lies within the domain of f. Sine inverse of fractional part can be considered to be a f of gx. We can consider this to be a f of gx, and then the condition for domain is the output of G must lie within the domain of f. So the output of G is 0 to 1, which completely lies within the domain of f. Therefore, the domain of the function is all real numbers. Okay, range के लिए, so range के लिए we apply the range restriction. This will be like sine inverse of a number lying between 0 to 1, which would imply y belongs to the sine inverse 0, 0, cos inverse 1, pi by 2. So 0 पे closed interval, pi by 2 पे open interval. Yeah, fairly easy questions, simple questions. Okay, next, find the domain and range. Cot inverse of signum x. Again, a very simple question. So signum x, now we know that signum x can only take three values, -1, 0, 1. And all of these three values are valid for cot inverse. Okay, because the domain of cot inverse is all real numbers. So the domain of this function will end up becoming all real numbers. Okay, and the range will then be cot inverse of numbers lying between -1, 0, and 1. So y belongs to the cot inverse of -1, minus pi by 4. अच्छा नहीं, cot inverse तो third quadrant में जाएगा ना. Cot inverse will be a value in the third quadrant. So cot inverse of -1 negative है third quadrant में 3 pi by 4. Cot inverse 0 would be pi by 2. And cot inverse 1 is pi by 4. So that will be the range pi by 4, pi by 2, 3 pi by 4. Okay, next, domain and range for y equal to tan inverse log to the base 2 x square minus 2x plus 2. Domain and range. So for the domain part, the tan inverse. For tan inverse, the domain is all real numbers. The domain is all real numbers. So there will be no restriction for tan inverse. Log के लिए restriction लगेगा. That log to the base 2 implies that we need x square minus 2x plus 2 to be greater than 0. Okay, so now this is, we just check, we can actually write this as x minus 1 whole square plus 1, which will be greater than 0. Now this entity will be greater than 0 for all values of x belonging to real numbers. So the domain of this function is all real numbers. Okay. And in that case, अब range निकालना है. So range के लिए this will become tan inverse of log to the base 2 of अच्छा x minus 1 whole square plus 1. So for the perfect square, the minimum value is 0. So this would be 0 to infinity. Now 0 to infinity plus 1 हो गया 1 to infinity. So it's a simple scenario of range restriction now. So we have tan inverse of log to the base 2 of a number lying between 1 to infinity. Achha, log 1 to the base 2 is 0. So this will again end up becoming tan inverse 0 to infinity. Now tan inverse 0 is 0 and tan inverse infinity is pi by 2. So the range of this function would be 0 to pi by 2. Okay, next question. Find the domain and range of sine inverse. Two x by 1 plus x square. So इसके लिए what we do is, let's say we substitute x as tan theta. So this would be like sine inverse of 2 tan theta by 1 plus tan square theta. But 2 tan theta by 1 plus tan square theta is the value of sine 2 theta. Okay. Now, sine 2 theta is sine of something, which means it will always lie between minus 1 to 1, which then is agreeable with the sine inverse, the domain of sine inverse. So again, we can say that the output of G lies within the domain of F. Okay, for all values of theta, which means for all values of x, 2x by 1 plus x square will lie between minus 1 to 1. Okay. Therefore, the domain of the function would be all real numbers. And range क्या हो जाएगा again? Since we have sine inverse of minus 1 to 1, the range of this would be minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. Is everyone clear with the last one?
Yes, sir.
because this is quite an interesting expression to have. So suppose, next question, let's say we have y is equal to sec inverse of 2x by 1 plus x square. Find the domain and range. Sec inverse of 2x by 1 plus x square. Find the domain and range. So just as we did in the previous part, we already know that 2x by 1 plus x square will be an entity that lies between -1 to 1. ठीक है ना? X को tan theta डाल के sin 2 theta बन जाएगा, and that means it will always lie between -1 to 1. So this is the output of G. -1 to 1. But for sec inverse, what would be the domain of sec inverse? -infinity to -1, union 1 to infinity. Now the domain of f of gx is like only those values of x for which the output of g lies within the domain of f. So if you look at the two intervals, what are the values that are common?
-1 and 1.
The only common values are -1 and 1. Okay. So now when will 2x by 1 plus x square become -1? When x is -1. 2x by 1 plus x square equal to -1 implies x is -1. And same way, 2x plus 1 by x square equal to 1 would imply x is equal to 1. So which means the domain of the function is only two numbers, -1 and 1. The function sec inverse of 2x by 1 plus x square is only defined for two values, 1 and -1. Is everyone able to understand this?
Yes, sir.
So then if it has only these two values in the domain, what would happen to the corresponding range? So range में आ
0
गया
and pi.
sec inverse of -1 and 1. Sec inverse 0 would be 0 and sec inverse pi -1 would be pi. So y belongs to 0 and pi. That will be the range, 0 and pi. That's it. Okay, next question. Find the domain and range. Sin inverse x plus cos inverse x plus tan inverse x. Domain and range. For this question, a common silly mistake that happens while finding the range is the fact that we know that sin inverse x plus cos inverse x is pi by 2. So we end up writing this as pi by 2 plus tan inverse x. Now tan inverse x is like a single expression, तो इसका range restriction लगा दिया. Pi by 2 to, well, minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. And that will then end up giving us the answer as 0 to pi, which is completely wrong. Okay. Why is it wrong?
डोमेन मैच नहीं करेगा.
Exactly, क्योंकि डोमेन का इशू है. ठीक है. For sin inverse x plus cos inverse x is pi by 2 indeed. But what would be the domain of this function? The domain of this function would be -1 to 1 because sin inverse and cos inverse are only defined for values lying between -1 to 1. So while y is equal to pi by 2 plus tan inverse x is correct. Okay, range के लिए y will be equal to pi by 2 plus tan inverse x is correct. The problem is that x over here will only be a number lying between -1 to 1, which then implies that the value, the return value that we get for tan inverse will lie between minus pi by 4 to pi by 4 instead of the full range of minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. Okay. And then this gives the answer as pi by 4 to this would be like saying y lies between pi by 2 minus pi by 4 is pi by 4 and pi by 4 plus pi by 2 is 3 pi by 4. That will be the answer. Pi by 4 to 3 pi by 4. Okay. Okay. Let's say we have a similar question. Find the domain and range of sin inverse x plus sec inverse x plus tan inverse x. So, well, what will happen for the domain of this? So, domain of sin inverse is -1 to 1. Sec inverse के लिए it will be minus infinity to -1 union 1 to infinity, individual domains, and tan inverse is all real numbers. Now, for the overall domain of the function, we'll take the intersection of the three. So, what will we have for the domain?
-1 and 1.
Again, the same thing will happen. The only values in the domain would be -1 and 1. Okay. So in that case, in order to find the range, what we do is, first case may put x equal to 1. So if x is equal to 1, y would be sin inverse 1, pi by 2, sec inverse 1, 0, tan inverse 1, pi by 4. So that will give us 3 pi by 4. And if x is equal to -1, so y would be sin inverse of -1 minus pi by 2, sec inverse of -1 pi, and ये आ जाएगा tan inverse of -1 minus pi by 4. So this would be pi by 4. So the range would be the values pi by 4 and 3 pi by 4. Is everyone okay with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next question. Find the domain and range. Y is root over of cos inverse x whole square minus sin inverse x whole square. Find the domain and range of root over of cos inverse x whole square minus sin inverse x whole square. And since we have a root, so root ka condition for the definition would be cos inverse x whole square minus sin inverse x whole square must be greater than or equal to 0. तो इसको सॉल्व करने के लिए what we do is a square minus b square. So cos inverse x plus sin inverse x into cos inverse x minus sin inverse x is greater than or equal to 0. But sin inverse x plus cos inverse x is pi by 2. So pi by 2 into cos inverse x minus sin inverse x is greater than or equal to 0, which would basically tell us that we want cos inverse x to be greater than or equal to sin inverse x. क्योंकि pi by 2 तो क्या anyways positive है, उससे तो कुछ होना है नहीं. Then we do the standard thing, sin inverse को write down as pi by 2 minus cos inverse x. Cos inverse x उधर चला जाएगा. So we'll have 2 cos inverse x is greater than pi by 2, or that will give us cos inverse x is greater than pi by 4. अब range restriction कर दिया. So pi by 4 is less than equal to cos inverse x is less than equal to pi, cos का maximum value. And then taking cos of the whole thing. So we'll have cos pi is less than equal to x is less than equal to cos of pi by 4. So that means x has to lie between -1 to 1 by root 2, sorry. 1 by root 2. This would be the domain of the function, -1 to 1 by root 2. Okay, so this is what we have for the domain part. Now for the range part. So range के लिए भी we can again start this simplification in the same way that y is like root over of pi by 2 into cos inverse x minus sin inverse x. और फिर से कर दिया कॉस, इसको साइन इनवर्स एक्स को कर दिया पाई बाई टू माइनस कॉस इनवर्स, तो दैट विल एंड अप बिकमिंग रूट ओवर ऑफ पाई बाई टू इंटू टू कॉस इनवर्स एक्स माइनस पाई बाई टू. अब देन वी हैव अ सिंगल टर्म ऑफ एक्स, तो अब इसका रेंज रेस्ट्रिक्शन कर दिया. सो वी हैव रूट ओवर ऑफ पाई बाई टू. अच्छा, यहाँ पे निकाला ये रेंज रेस्ट्रिक्शन ऑफ कॉस इनवर्सेस पाई बाई फोर टू पाई. So this would be twice of a number lying between pi by 4 to pi minus pi by 2. So हो गया pi by 4 into 2 is pi by 2, pi by 2 to 2 pi, pi by 2 to 2 pi minus pi by 2. So into pi by 2 minus pi by 2 0 and 2 pi by 2, 2 pi minus pi by 2, 3 pi by 2. तो 0 into 0 0, ये आ गया 3 pi square by 4, which would then imply that y lies between 0 to root 3 pi by 2. Like, was everyone able to follow the range?
सर
हाँ बोलो.
सर डोमेन के लिए कॉस कॉस इनवर्स का स्क्वायर माइनस साइन इनवर्स का स्क्वायर इज ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू जीरो.
हाँ,
तो फिर कॉस इनवर्स ऑफ एक्स इज ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू माइनस साइन इनवर्स एक्स का स्क्वायर. तो मॉड ऑफ कॉस एक्स इज ग्रेटर
माइनस
देन
साइन
मॉड
इनवर्स
ऑफ
क्यों
साइन
होगा? साइन
इनवर्स.
इनवर्स उधर जाएगा तो पॉजिटिव ही तो
नहीं
रहेगा.
मतलब हाँ पॉजिटिव वही
तो
वही
कॉस
किया.
इनवर्स इज ग्रेटर देन साइन
तो
इनवर्स, पर स्क्वायर है दोनों साइड.
हाँ तो मॉड लगा दिया.
हाँ, तो मॉड ऑफ कॉस इनवर्स इज ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू मॉड ऑफ साइन इनवर्स.
हाँ तो उसके लिए फिर मेरा आंसर है -1 to -1/√2 यूनियन ऑफ 1/√2 to 1.
अच्छा, उसके लिए ये गलत हो जाएगा ना. देख, इफ वी हैव एक्स स्क्वायर इज ग्रेटर देन वाई स्क्वायर, तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं होता ना दैट मॉड ऑफ एक्स हैज टू बी ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू मॉड ऑफ वाई. ये रॉन्ग है यार.
ठीक है सर. थैंक यू.
ठीक है ना? क्योंकि मान ले एक्स इज हाफ एंड वाई इज -1/4, या ऐसा कोई एग्जांपल्स लेके यू कैन ट्राई इट आउट. उल्टा एग्जांपल लेके भी कर सकते हो मॉड के लिए, क्योंकि नंबर्स, इफ द बिहेवियर ऑफ द नंबर्स चेंज अबाउट वन. अगर इफ द वैल्यू इज ग्रेटर देन वन, पावर करेंगे तो मैग्नीट्यूड इंक्रीज करेगा. पर इफ द वैल्यू इज लेस देन वन, तो स्क्वायर करेंगे तो वैल्यूज घटेगा. ठीक है ना?
यस सर. थैंक यू सर.
इसीलिए वी डिड इट इन दिस वे, सो दैट अपने को वो मॉड वॉड के चक्कर में नहीं जाना पड़े. अच्छा, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. फाइंड द रेंज ऑफ, सिर्फ रेंज निकालना है, डोमेन नहीं. साइन इनवर्स एक्स होल क्यूब प्लस कॉस इनवर्स एक्स होल क्यूब. डोमेन -1 to 1 होगा, इसलिए नहीं निकालने, जस्ट दी रेंज. Okay, to solve this question, what we do is, just I had said this once when we were discussing about trigo, that if we have any expression in terms of complementary trigonometric ratios, then one of the ways of solving it is we take one of them as alpha so that the other becomes pi by 2 minus alpha. Okay. So this expression is like writing alpha cube plus pi by 2 minus alpha whole cube. And अब इसको solve करने के लिए we apply the formula of a cube plus b cube. So what is a cube plus b cube?
A plus b into a square plus b square
A
minus c.
plus b into a square plus b square minus ab. तो इसमें तो अल्फा अल्फा कैंसिल होके कांस्टेंट हो गया पाई बाई 2. नाउ ऑल वी हैव टू डू इज सॉल्व फॉर दिस स्क्वायर्ड अप एंटिटी. So this is alpha square plus pi square by 4 minus 2 pi alpha by 2. तो 2 कैंसिल हो जाएगा. Pi alpha plus alpha square minus pi by 2 alpha plus alpha square. So this is like having pi by 2 times 3 alpha square minus pi plus pi by 2. 3 pi by 2 alpha and plus that's a pi square by 4 is the only constant term. Pi square by 4. ये आ जाएगा. Now we have a quadratic expression in alpha. How do you find the range of a quadratic expression? We check whether alpha is an ideal variable or not. So tell me, is alpha over here an ideal variable? Alpha is not an ideal variable, so we'll have to take the root of completing the perfect squares. So start with 3 commonly here. So we'll have alpha square minus pi by 2 alpha plus pi square by 12. Then the technique of completing the perfect square, 3 pi by 2. So we'll have alpha minus half the coefficient of alpha, so pi by 4 ka square. Now the additional value in this square, this would be pi square by 16. So we compensate with minus pi square by 16 plus pi square by 12, which is 3 pi by 2 alpha minus pi by 4 whole square. और ये कितना हो गया? Pi square by 12, pi square by 16. LCM of 12 and 16, 4, 4, 4 3 the 12, 48. तो नीचे में तो आ गया 48, फिर ये हो गया 3 और इधर जाएगा -3 plus 4. So plus pi square by 48. We have a single term of alpha. We apply range restriction. What does alpha represent? Alpha represents sine inverse. So what's the range restriction of alpha? 3 pi by 2 of a number lying between minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 minus pi by 4 whole squared plus pi square by 48. तो minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 minus pi by 4 हो गया 3 pi by 2 of a number lying between minus 3 pi by 4 to pi by 4 whole square plus pi square by 48. अब 3 pi by 4 to pi by 4 whole square ये कितना हो जाएगा? Of a number lying between 0 to 9 pi square by 16 plus pi square by 48. I hope I haven't missed out on anything calculation wise. हाँ ठीक ही लग रहा है. Okay. So अब this would then be 3 pi by 2 into 0 plus pi square by 48 is pi square by 48 and 9 pi square by 16. So 9 pi square 9 9 9 16 को 3 से किया 27 28. 28 pi square by 48 ये आ जाएगा. So finally this would be 3 pi by 2 into pi square by 48. 3 3 cancel हो गया 16 32. So pi cube by 32 and 3 pi by 2 into 28 by 48. So you get 16 32 28 by 32. अच्छा 28 by 32 हो जाएगा 7 4 से गया ना 7 by 8. 7 pi cube by 8. देखो is everyone okay with this? यही आना चाहिए I guess calculation wise. This would be the answer. Pi cube by 32 to 7 pi cube by 8.
सर
हाँ बोलो.
सर आइडियल वेरिएबल क्या होता है?
Ideal variable क्लास में डिस्कस किया ना. An ideal variable is a variable whose range restriction is in all real numbers.
यस यस ठीक है सर, ठीक है
है ना, जो ऑल रियल नंबर ले सकते हैं. व्हाट इज द एडवांटेज? इफ वी नो दैट इट्स एन आइडियल वेरिएबल तो अपने डायरेक्टली फॉर्मूला लगा सकते हैं.
यस सर,
अगर आप अपवर्ड ओपनिंग पैराबोला है तो माइनस डी बाई फोर ए टू इन्फिनिटी होगा रेंज. डाउनवर्ड ओपनिंग
यस सर,
पैराबोला है तो माइनस इन्फिनिटी टू डी बाई फोर ए होगा रेंज.
यस सर,
बट ये आइडियल नहीं है तो इसके लिए पूरा सॉल्व करना पड़ेगा.
ओके सर.
बट मोर इम्पोर्टेंटली वाज इज एवन एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड द क्वेश्चन. रेंज निकालना कैसे निकाल रहे हैं अपने. आगे चलो. वन मोर क्वेश्चन ऑन दिस. Find the range of fx is equal to tan inverse of root 12 minus 2x square divided by x power 4 plus 2x square plus 3. Okay. Now, if you notice, इसका The trick for solving this is, if you notice, we only have even powers of x, right? ठीक है, तो डोमेन का तो कोई इशू होगा नहीं, because x power 4 plus 2x square plus 3 will be defined for all values. ये कभी जीरो नहीं हो सकता. And as long as the denominator is not zero, domain is not an issue for this. So for this function, what be the domain? Domain is all real numbers. ठीक है, कोई denominator कभी जीरो हो नहीं रहा. Chill है. So now the mechanism of solving this would be, जैसे case 1, let x is not zero. Suppose x is not zero. ठीक है, and then we divide both the numerator and denominator by x square. So this will end up becoming tan inverse of root 12 minus 2 whole divided by x square plus 3 by x square plus 2. Now, can anyone tell me what be the purpose of dividing by x square?
Completing the square.
Well, completing the perfect square से भी कर सकते हैं. But the easier method would be, well, we have a x square plus 3 by x square. Reciprocal entities है. Range कैसे निकालेंगे? We apply m greater than equal to gm. So x square plus 3x square by 2 must be greater than equal to root 3. You know, which implies x square plus 3 by x square must be greater than equal to 2 root 3. 2 root 3 is basically root 12. Greater than root 12. make a small correction. Question में ये root 12 plus 2 होगा. ठीक है, root 12 plus 2 होगा. Just make a small correction in the question. Root 12 plus 2. Okay. So then we apply the range restriction in this. So this becomes tan inverse root 12 plus 2 divided by a number lying between root 12 to infinity plus 2, which is tan inverse of root 12 plus 2 divided by root 12 plus 2 to infinity. Root 12 plus 2 by root 12 plus 2 would be 1, and root 12 plus 2 by infinity is already obviously 0. So we end up getting this as tan inverse of a number lying between 0 to 1. Dekho, was even able to understand this? Tan inverse 0 is 0 and tan inverse 1 is pi by 4. So if x is not 0, the range of the function will be 0 to pi by 4. अब सिर्फ ये देख लो भाई. So what if x is 0? If x is 0, तो directly 0 बैठा दो. So this will imply y is tan inverse 0, which is 0. Therefore, what would be the range of fx? 0 to pi by 4. Union हो जाएगा. Can anyone tell me केस 1 में let x equal to x not equal to 0 क्यों करना पड़ रहा है? Anyone?
Sir, because we are dividing by x square.
Because if x is equal to 0, division by 0 will not be allowed. Dividing by x square नहीं कर सकते फिर. Okay, moving on. Is everyone clear with the domain and range, various domain and range questions that we have discussed? So then we move on to the next question. Again, related to functions. So suppose we have a function defined from all real numbers to 0 to pi by 2, where fx is equal to tan inverse of x square plus 2x plus alpha. Okay. Now, if f is an onto function, find alpha. If f is an onto function, find alpha. What is an onto function? Codomain is equal to range. So since f is an onto function, it implies that codomain will be equal to range, which means the function fx tan inverse x square plus 2x plus alpha must take all values between 0 to pi by 2. You know, so like tan inverse x square plus 2x plus alpha equal to 0 भी होना चाहिए. So that tells us tan inverse of x square plus 2x plus alpha lies between 0 to pi by 2, or x square plus 2x plus alpha lies between tan 0 0, tan 90, infinity. So x square plus 2x plus alpha must be greater than equal to 0 basically हो गया, cause infinity का कोई issue है नहीं. ठीक है. What is the condition for x square plus 2x plus alpha to be greater than equal to 0? So if we want it to be greater than equal to 0, graph कैसा होना चाहिए? X square plus 2x plus alpha will be an upward opening parabola. And it should be an upward opening parabola that touches the x-axis क्योंकि 0 का भी root चाहिए. So this is must be the graph, and this would be the graph when d is equal to 0. So b square minus 4ac must be equal to 0, or alpha is equal to 1. For a function to be an onto function, alpha must be equal to 1. ठीक, अच्छा मान लो सेम क्वेश्चन है. What if I just change it to this? Function is r defined from minus pi by 4 to pi by 2. Everything is the same. ठीक है, सेम fx है, सेम ऑन टू है. तो कैसे करेंगे क्वेश्चन को? What should be alpha in that case? ये करके करो. F is still on to. Find alpha. Just to check whether video have understood the question technically. पूरा सेम क्वेश्चन है, बस आई हैव चेंज द कोडोमेन 0 to pi by 2 से minus pi by 4 to pi by 2.
टू
नहीं, 2 रॉन्ग है. साइन का गलती कर रहा है.
0.
Yes, alpha would be 0. सेम ही करना हो गया ना. इस क्वेश्चन में क्या हो जाएगा? माइनस पाई बाई 4 इज लेस देन इक्वल टू tan इनवर्स ऑफ एक्स स्क्वायर प्लस 2x प्लस अल्फा इज लेस देन पाई बाई 2. फिर tan ऑफ द होल थिंग कर देंगे तो यहाँ पे -1 आ जाएगा एज द मिनिमम वैल्यू. इन्फिनिटी, अब इन्फिनिटी का तो कुछ करना है नहीं. सो एक्स स्क्वायर प्लस 2x प्लस अल्फा मस्ट बी ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू -1, और एक्स स्क्वायर प्लस 2x प्लस अल्फा प्लस 1 मस्ट बी ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू 0. एंड अब इसका d इक्वल टू 0 करेंगे तो 4 माइनस 4 times alpha plus 1 is equal to 0. So it will give us alpha as 0. So minus pi by 4 to pi by 2 में on to होने के लिए alpha has to be 0. Is that clear with the question? Okay. Next question. If box of sine inverse of cos inverse of sine inverse of tan inverse is 1, find x. So to find the range of values of x, if the box of the whole thing is 1, when will box of the whole thing be 1? When sine inverse of cos inverse of sine inverse of tan inverse x lies between 1 to 2. But we know, since the outermost function is sine inverse, so 2 tak to जा नहीं सकता. What is the maximum that it can go up till? Pi by 2. Now we take sine of the whole thing. So sine 1 is less than cos inverse of sine inverse of tan inverse x is less than equal to 1. अब नेक्स्ट में यहाँ पे cos इनवर्स है तो वी टेक साइन ऑफ होल, फिर नेक्स्ट में करेंगे cos ऑफ होल, पर cos के टाइम पे द inequality will flip. Cos is a decreasing function, so we'll have cos 1 is less than equal to sine inverse of tan inverse x is less than equal to cos of sine 1. फिर वापस से बाहर में sin 1 आ गया, साइन इनवर्स है तो साइन ऑफ द होल थिंग, so that will be like sine of cos 1 is less than equal to tan inverse x is less than equal to sine of cos of sine 1. And lastly, tan of the whole thing. So we'll have tan of sine of cos 1 is less than equal to x is less than equal to tan of sine of cos of sine 1. That will be the answer. I hope everyone is able to follow this.
No. Not follow you.
सर
बोलो.
सर सीधा साइन मतलब जस्ट साइन इनवर्स
बोलो.
ऑफ वो वाला चीज, तो साइन को मैंने उस साइड भेज दिया, फिर कॉस को उस साइड भेज दिया, साइन को वैसे करके किया, तो जो लेफ्ट वाला था वो नहीं आया.
तो भाई वो इक्वेशन में बॉक्स है, ये
ओ हाँ हाँ हाँ, सॉरी सॉरी सॉरी
तो
सॉरी.
बॉक्स है, ब्रैकेट थोड़ी ना है मेरे भाई.
ठीक है सर.
माँ बुला रही है, माँ बुला रही है, जाओ. Okay, next question. For x lying between 0 to 1, 0 to half, find the value of tan of sine inverse of x by root 2 plus root over of 1 minus x square by root 2 minus sine inverse x. As a method of solving this, put x is sin theta. Okay. So that is expression को we can write as sin inverse of, अच्छा 1/√2 को कर दिया x को कर दिया sin theta. X is sin theta and 1/√2 को we can write as cos 45 plus, अच्छा if x is sin theta तो root over 1 minus x square हो जाएगा cos theta into sin 45 minus sin inverse of sin theta, which is now like tan of sin inverse of sin theta plus 45 and a minus of sin inverse of sin theta. अब sin inverse of sin हो जाएगा tan of theta plus 45 minus theta, theta theta cancel हो गया, tan 45, the answer is 1. Was everyone able to follow this? Acha, next question. Find the value of 3/2 cos inverse root over of 2/2 plus pi square plus 1/4 sin inverse 2 root 2 pi by 1 plus tan square theta by 1 plus 2 pi square, sorry. My bad, my bad. 2 root 2 pi by 2 plus pi square and a plus tan inverse root 2 by pi. Find the value of this whole thing. Three by two cos inverse root over of 2/2, 2/2 plus pi square plus 1/4 sin inverse 2 root 2 pi by 2 plus pi square plus tan inverse root 2 pi. Okay, the method of solving this is, let's say we rewrite the expression in this way. 3 by 2 cos inverse of whole root 1 by 1 plus pi by root 2 whole square. So basically what we are doing is divide both the numerator and divide denominator by 2. पूरे एक्सप्रेशन में, ठीक है, प्लस 1/4 अच्छे हो जाएगा साइन इनवर्स ऑफ, इनफैक्ट हर टर्म में अलग अलग से डिवाइड करना पड़ेगा तो पूरे एक्सप्रेशन में नहीं है, कॉस इनवर्स से 2 से डिवाइड करेंगे एंड इसमें रूट, इसमें भी 2 से डिवाइड करेंगे, इनफैक्ट इसमें 2√2 से डिवाइड करेंगे जो भी है. सो वी कैन राइट दिस एज 2 by root 2 whole divided by 1 plus pi by root 2 whole square. ठीक है, इसमें भी 2 से मल्टीप्लाई डिवाइड कर दिया, सॉरी 2 से वी डिवाइड द न्यूमरेटर एंड डिनोमिनेटर, प्लस tan इनवर्स को लिख दिया 1 बाई पाई बाई रूट 2, साइन इनवर्स कॉस इनवर्स दोनों टर्म्स में डिवाइड बाई, वी डिवाइड द न्यूमरेटर एंड डिनोमिनेटर बाई 2. ठीक है, इसमें इसमें दोनों में वी डिवाइड द न्यूमरेटर एंड डिनोमिनेटर बाई 2. जो tan इनवर्स में नहीं करना, साइन इनवर्स और कॉस इनवर्स में करना है. Yeah. And then what we do is, let's say we put pi by root 2 as tan theta. Okay, pi by root 2 as tan theta. Now do notice that since pi by root 2 is a value greater than 1, pi is 3.14, root 2 is 1.732 or 1.414. This would imply that theta would be greater than pi by 4. Okay, this is an important criteria that we have to observe. Now, after putting this as tan theta, what happens is we get cos inverse of whole root 1 by 1 plus tan square theta plus 1 by 4 sin inverse of 2 tan theta by 1 plus tan square theta plus tan inverse of 1 by tan theta. Okay. 1 plus tan square हो गया sec square, 1 by sec square is cos square, root over of cos square आ जाएगा cos theta plus 1 by 4 ये हो जाएगा sin inverse of 2 tan theta by 1 plus tan square theta is sin 2 theta. And plus tan inverse of 1 by tan theta is like tan inverse of cot theta. What happens to cos inverse of cos theta? तो ये आ जाएगा 3/2 theta plus 1/4. अच्छा, now this is where you have to be careful. The whole reason of doing this, theta is greater than pi by 4 implies 2 theta would be greater than pi by 2. So 2 theta is an angle in the second quadrant, जो साइन इनवर्स के रेंज के बाहर है. Okay, the range of sine inverse is minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. So what would happen for the angle in the second quadrant? We'll apply the formula of the second quadrant, pi minus theta. And plus tan inverse of cot theta would be pi by 2 minus theta. So this would be like 3 theta by 2 plus pi by 4 minus theta by 2 plus pi by 2 minus theta. ये थीटा थीटा कैंसिल हो गया, minus theta by 2 is minus 3 theta by 2, cancels off with 3 theta by 2, and the final answer that we get is 3 pi by 4. Was everyone able to follow the question?
सर पाई बाय रूट टू को tan थीटा
क्या चीज?
पाई बाय रूट टू को tan थीटा हम लोग एग्जाम में कैसे?
एग्जैक्टली ठीक है, एंड इसीलिए ये एडवांस का PYQ है। ठीक है, दिस इज अ प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम एडवांस्ड। या इस पे एक्सप्रेशन को पाई बाई रूट टू के टर्म्स में डालना है और फिर पाई बाई रूट टू को tan थीटा लेना है, ये कैसे सोचेंगे, यही प्रॉब्लम है। ठीक है, दैट इज द एग्जैक्ट प्रॉब्लम विद द क्वेश्चन।
सर ट्रायंगल से करने जा रहा था, बहुत लंबा हो गया था।
क्या?
ट्रायंगल से करने जा रहा था बट फिर बहुत लंबा हो गया था।
हाँ, so as I have said multiple times, this is the beauty of the advanced exam. All of the questions, most of the questions will have a particular trick in them. If you're able to crack the trick, ये पकड़ में आ गया, then the question can be solved very easily. फिर उस question में कुछ बचेगा ही नहीं। बट अब अगर ये चीज नहीं क्लिक करेगी कि भाई 2 से डिवाइड करके पाई बाई रूट 2 को tan थीटा डाल सकते हैं, बैठे रहो, हो गई नहीं ये क्वेश्चन। You know, that is the problem with advanced. Okay, moving on. Next question. If fx is defined as sine inverse of 2x by 1 plus x square plus 2 tan inverse x, find the value of cos of f of 10.
फोर्टी
40 कहाँ से ले आया?
सर एक्स को tan थीटा बोले तो?
हाँ, x को tan थीटा लो, फिर
हाँ, तो साइन इनवर्स ऑफ साइन टू थीटा प्लस 2 टाइम्स tan इनवर्स ऑफ tan थीटा, ऐसे
ठीक
करके।
है, आगे आगे आगे।
तो 2 tan inverse थीटा को sin inverse ऑफ 2x by 1 plus x square ले सकते हैं क्या यहाँ पे?
देखो, the method of solving this would be we put x as tan theta as pointed out by Naman, because ये सेम चीज अपने पहले भी क्वेश्चंस में किए हैं। in the session. So that this will end up becoming sine inverse of, अच्छा यहाँ पे आ जाएगा 2 tan theta by 1 plus tan square theta, तो sin 2 theta plus 2 tan inverse tan theta. ठीक है ना? You can either do it in this way or you could apply the direct formula as well. Okay. If you remember, 2 tan inverse x का direct formula क्या होता है? Sin inverse of 2x by 1 plus x square for x lying between -1 to 1. And what is the formula if x is greater than 1? Pi minus हो जाते हैं. Pi minus sin inverse of 2x by 1 plus x square. क्योंकि if x is greater than 1, ये second quadrant में चला गया. Second quadrant में pi minus theta हो जाता है. So if you remember this formula, this is actually a question of the formula. कि since we are asked to find cos of f of 10, तो यहाँ पे x कितना है? X is 10, which means x is greater than 1. So 2 tan inverse x can be written as pi minus sin inverse of 2 sin. So this will be like writing sin inverse of 2x by 1 plus x square plus pi minus sin inverse of 2x by 1 plus x square. So sin inverse cancel हो जाएगा and we'll end up getting the value as pi. That f of x will be pi for all x greater than 1. So what will be the value of f of 10? F of 10 is pi and cos pi -1 है आंसर. ये फॉर्मूलाज याद है ना? मल्टीपल एंगल्स के लिए किया था. So since we are given the value, we have to use the branch of the formula specific to the value. Okay, next question. Solve for x. Sin inverse x plus cos inverse of x square minus 2x plus 2 is equal to pi by 2. Find x. Simple सा question है.
X is 1.
Hmm?
1.
बनाएगा क्या?
हाँ
हाँ सर 1.
ठीक है. So we'll do it in the same way that जैसे क्लास में भी किया था. Cos inverse को उधर डाल दो तो pi 2 minus cos inverse would be like writing sin inverse x is sin inverse of x square minus 2x plus 2, which implies x must be equal to x square minus 2x plus 2. So x square minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. इसके रूट्स क्या क्या आएगा?
X
Equal
is
to
1
1
and 2.
and 2.
But 2 हो नहीं सकता.
But 2 हो नहीं सकता. Obviously डोमेन का restriction है. 2 तो हो नहीं सकता. So x is 1. Correct. Okay, next question. If cos inverse of root over of 2 by x minus cos inverse of root 6 plus 1 by 2 root x is pi by 6, find x. अगेन सेम जैसे क्लास में किया था, एक टर्म को शिफ्ट टू द राइट हैंड साइड, कॉस ऑफ बोथ द साइड्स. क्या यहाँ कॉस ऑफ ए प्लस बी आ जाएगा, कॉस ए कॉस बी. सो कॉस ए कॉस पाई बाई 6 cos 30 root 3 by 2 into root 6 into root 6 plus 1 by 2 root x minus sin a sin b. So sin pi by 6 half and sin of cos inverse आ जाएगा root over of 1 minus root 6 plus 1 by 2 root x का whole square. So this is 2 by x is root 3 into root 6 plus 1 by 4 root x minus half. ओके, यहाँ से 2 रूट एक्स तो बाहर आ जाएगा, तो ये भी हो जाएगा 4 रूट एक्स और अंदर में आएगा, रूट में आ जाएगा 4x minus, अच्छा root 6 plus 1 का square would be 6 plus 1 7 plus 2 root 6. So minus 7 minus 2 root 6. So this is like, अच्छा root x तो cancel ही हो गया, पूरे इक्वेशन से रूट एक्स कैंसिल हो जाएगा. इज दैट ओके विद एवरीवन? और 4 इधर मल्टीप्लाई हो गया, तो विल हैव 4 रूट 2 इज रूट 3 इंटू रूट 6, तो रूट 18. The root 18 is 3 root 2 plus root 3 minus root over of 4x minus 7 minus 2 root 6. So 4 root 3 का इधर गया रूट 3 रूट 2 माइनस रूट 3, या नेगेटिव एडजस्ट कर दो, तो नेगेटिव एडजस्ट कर देंगे तो दिस विल एंड अप बिकमिंग रूट 3 minus root 2 is root over of 4x minus 7 minus 2 root 6, square both the sides. So 3 plus 2 minus 2 root 6 is 4x minus 7 minus 2 root 6. तो ये कैंसिल हो गया. इधर पे कितना आया? 3 2 3 plus 2 5, 12 is equal to 4x. So we get x as 3.
3.
That will be the answer. ये हो गया था सबसे, वो तो जाना चाहिए था, तो सिंपल क्वेश्चन ही था. Okay. Next question. Cos inverse of 2x minus 2 cos inverse of root over of 1 minus x square is pi. Find x. Start by applying 2 cos inverse का formula. What's the formula for 2 cos inverse x? Cos inverse of 2x minus cos inverse of 2x square minus 1 is pi. 2 cos inverse x is cos inverse of 2x square minus 1. फिर जब और फिर बस रेगुलर में जैसे सॉल्व करते हैं सॉल्व कर लो इज पाई प्लस और ये हो गया कॉस इनवर्स ऑफ कितना और 2 - 1 1 1 माइनस 2x² कॉस ऑफ द होल थिंग कर दो सो 2x इज कॉस ऑफ पाई प्लस थीटा कॉस ऑफ पाई प्लस थीटा इज माइनस कॉस थीटा सो माइनस ऑफ दिस आ जाएगा 2x². So this will end up becoming माइनस के साथ 2x² - 1. So 2x² minus 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. Solve for x. I guess इधर चले लगाना पड़ेगा. So x would be like 2 plus minus root over of 4 plus 4 whole divided by 4. So 2 plus minus 2 root 2 by 4. So x is 1 plus minus root 2 by 2. अब so we get two values as ये क्लियर है x का दो वैल्यूज आ गया 1 plus root 2 by plus minus 2. Now which of them would be valid, which of them would be invalid, or both would be valid, both would be invalid? क्या होगा?
So 1 minus root 2 वाला value invalid है.
क्या विभा, if you can speak a little louder.
1 minus root 2 by 2 वाला value invalid होगी.
1 minus root 2 by 2 वाला value would be valid. 1 plus root 2 by 2 वाला will be invalid because if you put that over here, तो into 2 करके ये root 2 plus 1 हो जाएगा and root 2 plus 1 exceeds 1. So this is invalid.
का वैल्यू 12 आएगा ना.
Value?
डिटर्मिनेंट का वैल्यू 12 आना चाहिए 4ac.
तो अच्छा हाँ यहाँ पे 8 भी तो था. Shit, sorry, my bad.
Yes, sir.
Okay, कोई नहीं यार. So ये फिर क्या हो जाएगा? b² - 4ac. अच्छा सॉरी ये तो 8 होगा ना, पूरे का वैल्यू 12 आएगा. ओके 4 2 8 ये हो गया तो ये हो जाएगा 12 इज 2 root 3. So 2 plus minus 2 root 3 by 4. So x is 1 plus minus root 3 by 2 आएगा. ठीक है, root 2 की जगह पे root 3 होगा. In any case, again, which value would be valid, which value will be invalid? तो सेम वही फंडा रहेगा. 1 plus root 3 by 2 would be invalid because यहाँ पे डालेंगे तो 1 plus root 3 will become value greater than 1. Therefore, the only solution is x is 1 minus root 3 by 2. Is everyone okay with this?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that would be all for today. I hope everyone was able to understand all the questions that we have discussed for ITF today.